All right, looks like we still have some people hopping on, but we're not going to wait any longer and we're going to dive right in. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Natalie Morgan. I'm the Director of HR at CareerPlug, and we're really excited to be hosting our 2021 Planning Virtual Workshop today. So this will be about a 60-minute presentation, and we're going to cover a couple different things with Cultivate Advisors. Kicking it off, we'll introduce who they are, set some expectations, dive into that 2021 planning content, and leave you with some really actionable takeaways and next steps. We're also going to leave plenty of time for some Q&A during this webinar at the end. So really excited to introduce you to our main speaker here, Casey Clark. So Casey is a very motivated business leader, passionate entrepreneur. He actually got his start owning a home service franchise. After a decade, he successfully exited his role, 90 plus franchise owners, over 600 employees, and went on to co-found Cultivate Advisors. So Cultivate is one of the largest small business advising firms in North America. He's the CEO, and his team has helped thousands of business owners reach their growth objectives through core business skill development and scalable systemization. So in the last couple of years, 2019, 2020, Cultivate ranked within the top 800 fastest growing businesses in the US on the Inc. 5000 list. The mission of Cultivate Advisors is to partner with committed entrepreneurs to propel their business beyond expectations. In 2019, the average business with the Cultivate portfolio grew by 68% in year-over-year revenue and 108% in profit, proving that when you prioritize the growth of your clients, the business grows as well. So you can see why we wanted to bring such a powerhouse onto our webinar today. So Casey, thank you for joining us. I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. Just want to do a quick audio check. You can hear me, is that right?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Well, glad to be here, everybody. Thanks for joining us, taking time away. I know you're all very busy, so to take the step in the right direction to say, you know what, I could get further developed on how to build out business plans. I could take this skill to the next level. In fact, that you slow down to spend an hour with us today. I just want to really appreciate your time and your energy. I've got a lot of really great content today. Excited to walk everybody through it. Natalie kind of set you up on this. She shared what our mission is, and this piece that I want to talk about is I'm going to be speaking to committed entrepreneurs today. So I just want to be clear, I'm bringing this more from the business owner's perspective. If you're on the call and you're not a business owner, that's okay. You'll still get a lot of value, but just know I'm going to be speaking at it from the standpoint of business owners. And what I really want you to think about as we're going through this planning is, what type of planning have you done currently in the past, maybe on the business? And what's the beyond expectation? How can we get you to go that next level? And that's what today's really going to be about. So what we do is we do one-on-one advising to support business owners. We teach and show them how to grow and scale the organization, mostly working directly with the owners and sometimes the leadership team. Really passionate about what we do, and that's what we're all about. So welcome, and we're glad you're here. So as we get in, we have done this with over 1,000 businesses. We've done this with over 200 plus industries. So I'm going to give this content to you today from a place of experience. So just know you can trust the content. I'll have a couple tools and resources I give you along the way that you can use. And Natalie already shared some of the great highlights. So let's get into today's content. I've got content for all 5 stages. Now, you may not know what these 5 stages are. This is our proprietary way that we divide up businesses. If you want to learn more about our stages, you can go to cultivateadvisors.com and take an assessment to figure out what stage. But the short version is this. I've got content today that are going to be good for hustlers, those entrepreneurs, those solopreneurs, maybe going at this all on their own, all the way up to influencers where they have a leadership team that they're leading through and they've lost control of the business. So just keep in mind as we go through the content today, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different areas of the planning side of the business. Some things you've heard before, it's not going to be rocket science. It's your job to be selfish and identify those few things that are either great reminders or new content that you haven't heard today. And ultimately, we're looking for you to find those 1 or 2 items you can change with your planning process this year to go to the next step. I could train on this for probably the next week and slow this down for each of you. So keep in mind, in an hour, I'm hitting high-level different elements to try to get as many takeaways as possible for everybody. So thanks for joining. Sit back, get some note-taking materials. And as far as the platform, jump into the chat. I definitely have some engagement slides I'm going to be doing to get people to jump into the chat and engage. It's a lot more fun. I think we can all agree we've probably been a little zoomed out, maybe on too many webinars, too many video calls these days with everything going on this year. So feel free to navigate to the chat, find it, bring it up. And make sure you select panelists and attendees. And if I can just do a quick check, jump in there now and just say hello. Let me know where you're coming from in terms of what location, so I can dream about your weather versus my Chicago weather that I'm currently dealing with. But nonetheless, want to make sure everybody finds that chat room. So I'm going to give everybody just a second because we're going to need it. So find the chat. There we go. Thanks, Debbie, for being the first one. So everybody can kind of just circle in. And again, panelists and attendees needs to be selected. Let us know where you're coming from. All over the place. We've got the US well represented here. So great to see. Thanks for sharing those, everybody. I will have a couple polls I'm going to push out. Engage with those. I will absolutely tailor my content today based on what you answer to those polls, because it gives me insight of who's on the call. So when we launch those, take advantage. And again, we will have the resources. I always get this question in the chat. Will you get access to the deck? Yes, we will have an option to get this deck over to you if you'd like to revisit it, so you can add it to your notes. So just know that's going to be an option. All right, let's get into this. So today's content, I'm going to talk about the mindset of planning, especially this year, right? We've all been through these massive ups and downs this year. It has been a lot of emotion, especially as a business owner this year. And I'm going to slow down and talk about what should your mindset be as you go to build your 2021 planning. What am I thinking about as I set up the plans for myself? You know, in the 1,000+ businesses we work with in our portfolio, what's the mindset? From there, we're going to talk about the planning methodology. So how do you actually set up a step-by-step planning approach? And then I'm going to take it one step further and actually give you more of a collaborative planning approach. How do you take this planning methodology and then turn this into a more of a collaborative discussion with your team that you have? So that way you're not the only one that has to do all the work if you're the owner to build the business plan. So excited to walk you through these three. This is where we're going to spend our energy and our time. Let's get into mindset. So 2020 it's changed businesses, some good, some not so good, right? It has been, like I said earlier, a lot of ups and downs. And you know, some businesses have decided to pivot. Some businesses have been just fine. They've been able to weather the storm. Maybe they've even grown. Maybe there's even a little guilt from growing during this time of year with everything that's gone on this year. Those are all normal and obvious things that a lot of entrepreneurs have felt. And so what this means is that your brain might be a little out of whack as you go to approach planning. And so I just want to slow that down a bit. And I want to start by just taking this first quick poll. Again, none of your direct information will be shared because these are the answers. And if we can go ahead and launch that poll so people can jump into it. I want to know how much revenue are you going to do this year versus last year? Are you down by over 25%? Are you down by 5 to 25%? Mostly flat? Is your growth up by 5 to 25%? Is your growth over 25%? Jump onto that poll here and go ahead and start to select here. Which one are you? And again, we're going to share it, but not from a place of no one will know who shared what. So don't worry about that. Just this will give me a better idea of where we're at. So again, find that poll that should have just launched and popped up in front of you. Go ahead and select that. And then Natalie, once you see that we've kind of got a good audience here selected, we'll go ahead and turn those results over so we can get an idea of what the results are here once you get a moment. Okay, there we go. So it looks like if we look at these percentages here, so a lot of people are actually growing. You've got 40% of business owners have actually grown, which is fantastic to see. And then you've got this other, though, 40 to 45% that are either down by 5% or more. So as you can tell, not a lot of people saying, right, they've grown over 25%. Looks like we've got a very small percent. So there's, like I said, there's people that have absolutely grown. There's people that have absolutely gone backwards this year based on maybe their industry or different things going on. We can go and close that poll. Thanks so much, Natalie. That's really helpful. As you go through this, I'm going to be talking to both group sets here of who's grown versus who hasn't grown. So, because what's different? What's so different about planning for 2021 versus 2020? It's a one-word, very simplistic answer: the unknown. And I know all, especially business owners here on the line today, you're probably shaking your heads going, yeah, there's absolutely some unknown in this. Will you need to pivot or weather a different storm? Is there another second or third wave coming? What's going to happen with this election, right? What will take place? Will there be more, economic turbulence because of this? Will past data even be accurate to plan from? So many of us have pivoted this last year with our business into small ways of how we've approached the business. It's something you really have to slow down and think about, and it puts us into a different lens when you start to think about planning. Who walking into 2020, had the financial security or had things in place to go, you know what, I'm going to build my plan in case a pandemic hits in March. I have to imagine not many people had that understanding or that allocation in their plan. And that's okay. It wasn't your fault. No one really saw something like that or knew to plan for something like that. But now that it's happened, I think more people are always going to be in front of this. So you've got to get in this right mindset. It's going to be crucial. And I love this little infographic, right? Your body is always present, but is your mind? Are you thinking too much about the past? I know a lot of people, 2020 was the year. Everything was set up for 2020, all these resolutions. And then this happened. It's like, oh, I went backwards. Or are you out in the future? Are you looking so far forward and just excited about where you're headed that you're not actually truly looking at the risks in front of you over the next 6 to 9 months that could absolutely still come and affect your business? This is why you've got to get back to the present. It's healthy to look past. It's healthy to look forward, but you have to be planning in the present in your mind and thinking truly about the risks and opportunity in front of you. Some of you are going to need to have a funeral. Some of you that are maybe down based on that poll, you might be very frustrated, there might be some anger. Maybe you haven't worked through that. Simple, chart here to help you understand the fact of, taking in the information, getting support, bringing additional focus, and looking towards encouragement allows you to go through this denial curve to get back into commitment versus resistance, where some of you might be held at. Let this be kind of a quick trigger if that's one of some of who you are on the call today going, yeah, I've definitely just been a bit more maybe pessimistic or negative because you haven't just moved on from what happened this year. The other side of it is I keep meeting a lot of entrepreneurs where I'm like, gosh, your optimism is crazy right now. Are you actually facing reality? For instance, what most business owners haven't realized is that when will the actual wave of COVID hit you? There is truly a trickle to something like this. Again, with our portfolio of so many businesses we work with, I have seen businesses, industries every month start to become affected. Every month, there's couple new industries that start to get affected where the trickle down starts to hit. And so as things potentially slow or speed up, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but as we kind of face these next few months together, how you plan is going to be vital. And that's what I'm going to help you walk through today. So hopefully this helps get you in the right mindset as we're working through this. I'll give you 7 keys that I'm going to be thinking about over the next 12 months as I approach my mindset. And then let's move in and talk about actually how to set up the planning. So one is make sure you take space for planning. Most people try to do the planning, in between administrative blocks, between their other elements of work they're doing. Get out of where you normally work. Get to a place where you have space to think and process. My favorite is to give myself an entire day to focus on planning. I'll usually take 4 to 5 of those in Q4 to set myself up for the 2021 year. That approach allows you to clear your space, turn off your phone, get away from your emails, give yourself clarity to simplify your business. Another one is give your team space for planning. Take that same advice if you're leading through your team and you've got executives that have to give back reports or plans to you for the next year based on what's going to happen in their departments. You want to give them space, help them go in their calendars and assign, half day or full day blocks. Set yourself up to take a half day with them and let them slow down their plan and really discuss it with you. If you have the space, you'll find they'll do 10 times better of a job bringing those planning elements to you and having more clarity versus trying to do it throughout as just like another project and dealing with all the day-to-day distractions. When you're planning, for the right mindset, you want to go into this planning multiple scenarios. So what you don't want to do is build a plan and go, this is it. I want you to build a plan and go, this is my optimistic plan. If we really hit everything right, that's usually the first one you build, by the way. Most people are overly optimistic of the new future is going to be. The next plan I like to bring is I can accept it. This is the plan that, okay, you know what? I'll still mark this year as a win. And then the third scenario should be, what if the floor falls out underneath me? How am I going to approach this business? And it's just great to run through some scenarios, especially when you think about what happened in March of this last year. How awesome would it have been going into 2020 if you would have ran that third scenario and said, what if my sales dropped in half? What would I do to survive? Assume there's no PPP, like what would I do to survive? What would I have to do to maintain cash? What movements would I have to make to organize the business to where I would be safe? That builds a lot of confidence and allows you to sleep well at night, knowing you've already made your decisions of what you'll shift in the event of that scenario. So definitely do that because it'll give you the right mindset to stay in the middle and not ride the curve in so much emotion. You want to be firm on the macro, meaning when you're working with your team or when you're setting up the plans, You want to be very firm on what the macro objectives are. I want to hit this revenue. I want to hit this profit. I want to hit this objective. But when it gets into the path of how to do the micro, be more open to that pivoting and shifting. If you start to get very fixed on exactly how the micro has to work with your plan, I'm telling you, you're going the wrong way. You're holding too much control of the business. You need to let go a bit and put yourself in a better position to where it's more flexible, and let your team decide where the path and where those micros are going to go. And if you're a solopreneur, maybe you've only got just a couple employees and they're not ready to help you with the planning, then yes, you get to decide the micro, but it's still great to bring those employees in because those will probably be your future executives as you continue to grow and scale the organization, depending on what business you're in. The next one here is you want to simplify down to key performance indicators. And these are called KPIs. You've probably heard this term before. It's a very commonly used term. But what I find is that people overcommit on these. They pick way too many things in the business. So I want you to think about your mindset is, sure, I've got my revenue, I've got my profit goals, I know the high level numbers, but then take each department and don't have more than 5 KPIs per department that your leader is managing. I don't think any one person can lead more than 5 metrics in a year. So pick the most 5 important metrics you are excited to move the needle on next year to help grow your business, and focus in on those and let the others do what they're going to do and assume it will all fall into place. You're going to want to increase your cash threshold in the bank from what you've done in the past. You've probably already done that through PPP or just different mindsets going through the experience you've had in 2020. But when you're running your plans, the right mindset, you need to know how much cash is going to be in the account and be comfortable with that amount of cash. So you're never fearful of not having the cash to pay for what you need if an opportunity presents itself or something would hit you unexpectedly and take you backwards a bit. So increase that cash. A lot of business owners are afraid to have debt out or afraid to take any type of capital. All businesses have access to capital right now. There's more capital being infused into small businesses than ever before. I strongly encourage you to slow that down and open up some space in your mind to say, should I pay a little bit of interest just as an insurance policy to hold on to a credit line or to hold on to a small amount of cash if that's what you need to bring that cash threshold up? Making that decision first before you start to plan can be pivotal to your success at creating the best plan, because you will limit yourself otherwise of what's possible. And then last but not least here, just make sure you have someone to work with. Obviously, we're an advisory firm, so our clients our business owners work with us. Obviously, we're happy to explore that with you if the time ever made sense. But if it's not us, I don't care who it is. Find someone other than yourself to sit down with outside of your business and have them look over your plans and challenge you, play devil's advocate, and really push you to be grounded in every decision you've made in your plan. This is going to force you to look at stretch scenarios. It's going to force you to look more holistically at your plan, ultimately allowing you to get it as a more tighter plan that's more achievable. Because let's face it, business owners, you started a business because you have somewhat of an ego. That's really the only way you'd have enough confidence probably to push the business. So be confident in yourself. That's what you should be doing. But understand that you're generally going to be a bit more arrogant or opportunistic of what the business might be able to do. So just be conscious of that if that's your situation, and get somebody to help you with it. All right, so we're through our mindset piece. If you've done that, you're going to be in the right situation here. Let's now talk about the methodology, how to actually structure the planning methodology. And I'm going to make this probably more simple than you've heard in the past. I think a lot of people think you've got to build this big business plan. It's actually not how I feel at all. I find those aren't used. When I look at business plans, what I think about actually the most is I think about how you need to have a business plan that you can go back to and continue to update and edit and use in the working environment on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So just keep that in mind when I walk you through some of this logic. I want to throw another poll out. I want to find out, how far are you along in your 2021 planning? I just want to see where we're at. So let's go ahead and launch this poll. Have you not started yet? Do you have a lot of thoughts but nothing formal? Maybe have you started the formal plan, but there's still a ways to go? Maybe you're halfway through the formal plan. You feel really good. You're almost on track. Or is your formal plan complete? You're ready to go. You can start 2021 and you've got everything planned out the way you want. I don't see too many people pick that option, but I'm curious if we've got anybody on the call today that has. We'll give everybody just a few seconds here to select their option before we turn those results so we can all see them. Again, how far along are you in your 2021 planning? All right, Natalie, if you feel like we've got enough people who have jumped in, we'll go ahead and share those results. Yeah, pretty much what I expected. So you've got, a very small percentage that are halfway through this or beyond. Don't worry, folks. I do have some really good points for you as well today that help me shape what you've already worked on. But it looks like the largest percentage here is back at the beginning, saying, hey, look, I haven't started yet, or I've got a lot of thoughts, but I don't have it formally laid out yet. That's okay. You're in big company. Majority of business owners, actually, this is kind of a crazy stat I learned from Gallup. Almost 70% of business owners do not create a formal plan for each year they do business. Mind-boggling if you think of the risk of that and not understanding the details, but it is absolutely real that you can be in that elite 30% if you choose to just take on the chance of building a formal plan. And I'm excited to show you how to do that. Let's go ahead and stop that poll there and we'll keep moving on. So this is the planning framework I'm going to walk you through. And I'm going to walk through each step. I'm going to give you some details. So don't worry, you don't need to write down all 5 because I'm going to take my time and walk you through these today. But we're going to talk about the vision and long-term goals. We're going to talk about how to then bring annual macro goals and set them on behalf of that vision. We're then going to talk about how do you break down a macro goal into the KPI and what are some tips of how to do that. I'll then move that into the initiatives prioritized. What are the initiatives you want to do and how do you prioritize those in order to achieve the KPIs? And lastly, I'll land on number 5, which is how do you plan the implementation of those initiatives? That's ultimately what you can drive as an owner of the business. You get to drive the initiatives of the business that then works back to these goal sets. And when you understand and you think like this, working a plan backwards, and you start to understand that element, businesses can become a lot easier because it becomes about data, skill, and implementation. And that's what I'm excited to walk you through on these 5. For those of you that said, hey, I really haven't got started yet, this is generally what I would want to see. If I was leading a business owner in a conversation, I would explain that these are the timelines when these things should be happening. If your fiscal year is on the calendar year, assuming otherwise, if your fiscal year is a different time of the year, obviously reset these times accordingly. But you should have really the vision and the macro goals really set clearly of what you want to do the following year by the end of September. So a lot of you on the call are probably behind at this point, and that's okay. But we're going to want to churn a little quicker to help get caught up. Then majority of October and November is spent getting those KPIs and figuring out what the initiatives are, and then taking that down into your team and really figuring out just Q1. You don't need to plan initiative implementation past more than a quarter at a time because so many things could change. Imagine if you did all 4 quarters of initiative implementation last year, and then COVID happened in March. Big shift. A lot of things got done a little differently after that point in time. So just something to be conscious of. So let's slow this down. Let's talk about the vision and let's talk about these long-term goals. This is simple, right? Why are you doing this? What do you want in the next 3 to 5 or 10 years? And people ask this question all the time. Know your vision. Look, I don't need you to write out a thesis on this, but I do need you to have clarity of where you wanting to go over the next period that you could easily, transparently communicate to your team. Because you're going to need that answer in order to explain the why behind all of your planning decisions and all of your decisions you're going to make for the growth of the company. So you've got to get that locked into a simple statement. And it also should be something that invigorates your passion and gets you excited and gets you to wake up in pursuit of problem solving this plan you're going to put together on a daily basis. And if you are not up here in terms of excitement, way, way, way above, you have to realize that's going to get your team about here on excitement. Right? If you're not feeling this, your team won't even be at half of what you're at because it's your vision, most likely as the business. And that's something to be very mindful of. So I want to slow down and give everybody just a few seconds here. And I want you to just write down whatever comes to mind. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. This is always such an interesting thing to force somebody to do. Take 30 seconds and write down what is your most simplistic vision you have that you want to achieve in either 3, 5, or 10 years. Write it down. The first thing that comes to mind, and you can only spend 30 seconds. I'm going to time it now. Again, if you miss what I asked for, you're writing down within 30 seconds, what is it that you want to get to in the next 3, 5, or 10 years? Doesn't matter how you measure that. Whatever it is for you that gets you excited. Another 10 seconds here. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, we're at our time. And I know some of you are breaking the rules and you're still writing, but if you can't say it or understand it in 30 seconds, that's what you need to get to. And so if anybody's bold enough, jump in the chat and share. What is your vision? What did you write down in the next 30 seconds? Don't share any secrets. We only see your name. We don't know what the business is. But just what is it that your vision is? And this may give some people that really struggle to write down their vision some eyes or some thoughts of what their vision could be. So if you're comfortable, throw it in a chat, send it up. So Brad, thanks for sharing there. A multi-office agency. That's a great example. Maybe I'm a single agent. I want to get to a multiple office agency. That's our vision. So we're making decisions now to get to that level. Debbie, awesome way to share there. Increase your NPM, and then 5 to 8 years to sell the company. Awesome. You got to figure out how to transition that 5 to 8 years to sell to a different way to describe that passion to your team, because they may say, I don't want to lose you, Debbie, as my leader. So you've got to figure out the way to present that to who your team might be. Rafa, that's a great example too. So these are some good examples of just, this is what's important to you. There's no wrong answer, but have it and instill it in your team, because if you want to build a successful plan, it better be 100% in pursuit of this. If there is anything you're doing that doesn't get you to these items, stop doing them. Not worth it, not what's important to you. So keep that as the full focus as we go through the rest of this. Thanks for participating, everybody. Let's talk about the annual macro goals now. So this is really straightforward. Again, I'm oversimplifying this. This takes a little longer than this little simple workshop I'm doing with you all today, just to help make it as tangible as I possibly can. But when you set these annual macro goals, what you're really doing is you're identifying the 3 most important metrics that you are going to hit at the end of next year. Now, the 3 I commonly see that most people look at, again, then it gets specific based on the industries, but revenue, profit, number of employees, number of staff. Those are the 3 very consistent ones I see. Now, because of your industry, you may have completely different objectives, right? If I see a couple of agency owners on here right now, you may have more of like a transaction volume you want to do, because you know what that means back to your commission bonus payouts. It depends on the industry, depends on what type of business you're in. But you want to identify what are those 3 most important metrics that you're going to lead towards, meaning everything has to add up. Think of these 3 most important metrics as the outside parameter, okay, of the puzzle. We're building a complex puzzle together, 5,000 piece puzzle. Has anybody put together a 5,000 piece puzzle? Takes a little while. So we're putting together the outside parameter because that's how we should start. If you don't lock in what these 3 are and that you're really, really locked in of why you need to hit them because of the vision, and now everything is just a problem-solving exercise to get to show those 3. So we're going to do this again. We're going to take another 30 seconds. I'll give you a minute this time. And I'm looking for you to write down the first 3 things that come to your mind. You obviously can shift this. This is for you. But just take a stab and see how fast do these come out on paper for you. What are the 3 most important metrics? And I'm actually saying don't just write revenue. Put the revenue dollar amount that you're interested in. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to share your revenue and profits today. But just go ahead and write down what those 3 items are for yourself. Say, this is the 3 that I think we want to put everything into. For those that maybe missed it, I'm just asking you to find the 3 most important metrics that you want to hit next year and to write those down here just briefly. Jonah, thanks so much for jumping in, already sharing. You did exactly what I was going to ask. Like, you read my mind. Don't share any numbers, but just share with me what are some of the metrics that you're picking for your business that you get most excited about. We're going to give everybody just another 30 seconds here to write out what are those 3 most important metrics so we can have our annual macro goals set. $15 seconds. All right, feel free to keep wrapping up what you're writing and where your head is at. I know when you get in your mindset, but Aaron, thanks as well for jumping in. Exactly, if you're open to sharing, jump on chat. It always just helps people see, it allows everybody to kind of see different types of metrics, which I always find super helpful when you get a collaboration of great business owners on the call. So feel free to jump those in the chat there, no problem. And just share, not what the item is, because people won't understand it, or sorry, not what the percentage or the metric is, just what type of measurement are you doing. There's some really good ones here. What I'll share with you from some of them that have been posted already, some of these I would consider more KPIs. They're not actually the macro goal that the entire company would want to lead towards. one of the things to think about when you're writing these is that you want that, that macro goal you should be able to share with everyone in the organization and say, this is what we need to achieve. Because if you can't, then what you'll find is that you can't get alignment in all the different departments to make sure they're doing what they need to do to problem solve to the macro goal. Now, when you're smaller, if you're a smaller business with only maybe just a few employees, it gets a lot easier to be able to pick maybe more detailed metrics. But thanks for sharing the examples, everybody. This is great. Let's keep moving. We're going to talk about now, how do you take these macro goals and actually link them into KPIs? Again, KPIs is key performance indicators. If you've read some books, there's a lot of talk right now that's talking about leading indicators, right? What are the leading indicators? That meaning, if this happens, you're most likely going to control the destiny of getting to your macro goal set, right? If I want to go achieve, $1 million in sales in a business, it's hard for me to go, I need to build a business plan to hit $1 million. But it's not hard for me to identify and say, okay, that means I need to land 28 new clients before July. And I know if I do that, I'll have the revenue. Okay, that could be a KPI, or maybe that's not actually that controllable still to land that many clients. Maybe what's most controllable is that I need 172 prospects that I have an initial call with to talk about my services. So I know I need to go get 172. Maybe still not there yet. Maybe what I actually need to focus on is that 172, what I actually need to do is I need to get 37 a month. I need to hit 37. Comes out to like 1.2 per day. Okay, I feel like I can control that. That is a very controllable key performance indicator that if I just beat the drum as a business owner, I am confident we will hit those metrics. And I think I will give myself the best odds, not Vegas odds, the best odds at getting to my macro goals. That is hard work. It takes time to break down the metrics, break down the data that you have of your business, and get it down to a finite KPI that is most simplistic to understand. And you need to do this in all areas of the business. Each department, each role should have their KPIs, key performance indicators. Again, maximum of 5. No one can lead more than 5. Maximum of 5 in each area and each role. This is what will help connect their goals and what's most important versus trying to measure everything with your team, and how it connects back to your annual macro goals. And I want to help you break this down in maybe a more simplistic way than you've seen of how do you break down your business. This is a propeller that I've created to help show and design a business setup. It doesn't matter your industry. It doesn't matter the widget or the service offering that you provide to the marketplace. What's consistent with all businesses is the elements within this propeller. And I want you to think about this propeller as you're in this craft. You want the engine to help you get up in the air and take flight and get to your next destination, the next scalable point that you're working towards in your business. So we need a propeller with an engine to get us there. Financials is the engine. Then you have sales and marketing, which are the blades. That's your growth side. Leadership and recruiting, that's your capacity side to be able to manage and follow through with your product or service offering. And it's encased in productivity, because if it's not productive based on time, and if it's also not based on productivity around the automation within to make things scalable, it's very hard to get it going. The financial engine has to be the biggest, right? And then the blades need to be built consistently. Often what we do when we look at businesses is we realize that maybe sales is built to a 6 out of 10 and marketing is built to a 2 out of 10. Well, I can already tell you, do you want to get on that aircraft? Do you want to get on an aircraft where the propeller is not symmetrical? So it's going to be a very turbulent ride trying to get to your destination. So instead, what you want to do is we got to build out marketing to match. It's about slowly building all 4 of these areas while maintaining a large enough financial engine, enough cash in the bank that allows you to create the larger and larger propeller that will allow your flight to get bigger and longer to get to the next steps of scale. Very simple analogy just to start to think about. So I like to break down my business planning with these. I like to go, what's my financial plan? What's my sales, my marketing, my leadership, my recruiting, my productivity? What are those plans? Because that's what really then helps me see the whole element of the business. And this is where that methodology gets pretty easy. And so The first place to start with the financial engine is the pro forma. You want to put together a month over month, maybe in your business even more frequently, week over week, depending on the business. But usually I see month over month financial plans that show you revenue, shows you expenses, and shows you cash. I don't care what your P&L says. I care what your cash is in the bank. And this is an accounting thing. This is all forward planning. I want to plan the next 12 to 36 months, and I want to understand what the landscape of growth looks like. Couple tips, you're going to have to make this more detailed than you have in prior years. You're going to have to get into some of the specifics that would change based on if we had a second round of what's been going on in the world these days. So have those multiple scenarios. That's going to be important. Many things probably changed in 2020. So don't just assume based on what your financial data says in the past. Really slow down. What staff shifts happen? What compensation shifts happen? Was there any business pivots? Just things you may need to think about that you didn't have to last year. And you're going to want to connect other areas of the business back to this financial plan. So when I give you some tips on the sales and the marketing and all those other elements, you need to make sure the amount you plan in financials is connected to actually help you sell. You have enough sales reps, you have what you need. You have enough financial planning for what you need on the marketing side to be able to spend enough to get enough for cost of acquisition, to get enough clients in the door for whatever service or widget you offer. These are the things you have to think about as it pertains to financials. And reminder, just plan is not finalized. When you put this whole thing together, you're looking at the very bottom row, which is cash in the bank. And you're going to choose what's called a cash threshold, meaning I'm uncomfortable the moment it drops below 50 grand or 100 grand or 20 grand, whatever your number is, might be even way bigger than that, depending on the size of your business. You need to have where that never drops below that number, no matter the worst case scenario you run, meaning you'll have 3 versions of this that show a lot of the worst case scenarios that could happen and what that cash threshold will be. Now, some of you might be going, yep, got this, I'm good, awesome, getting ready to move on. Others of you may be coming from a different lens going, how the heck do I get started on this? I'm gonna make it easy. I'm gonna throw this in the chat. Natalie, if you wouldn't mind throwing this link in the chat. There we go, perfect. You can click on that. It's open and accessible. It's a tool that I've created. You'll notice you can't edit it. You have to go download it. So just click File and Download, and you are going to be able to actually access this tool. So feel free to grab it if you like, no strings attached. It'll allow you to jump in and just get started. This is so important that all business owners have one of these going into 2021. And I'll tell you how we can help you get this filled out faster at the end of today, but I just want to make sure everybody has at least a place to get started. It's super, super important. So I hope you find that really helpful. Let's keep going through the propellers here as we're still talking about these KPIs. So on the sales side, you're going to connect the revenue from your financials. So you have the revenue in your financial plan. You need to break that down into a sales metric plan. You need to break that down into average orders, lifetime value. You need to break that into all your sales steps, understand your sales conversions, so you can ultimately get down to the number of leads you need to achieve that amount of sales. Then you're going to build a marketing plan. You're going to take the number of leads you need in marketing, and you're going to work that backwards to understand how much budget do you need per source per lead, and what source is going to give you every lead in that marketing realm, so you can have enough leads to hit your sales plan, so then you have enough revenue for your financial plan. They're all connected. Then you're going to build out your leadership plan. You're going to want to connect marketing generation and sales output, as well as revenue fulfillment, so you can identify staff needs. Do you have enough salespeople to deliver that many sales meetings or prospects? Do you have enough marketing staff or enough people allocated to help support the marketing needs of the business? And then how much am I producing of that revenue? Do I have enough teams to help support that customer service, everything else? You're going to figure that out and build out development structures, meeting structures. What is your plan to lead that? And then you're going to build a recruiting plan. CareerPlug is obviously a phenomenal resource for all of you to help support you in this, but you're going to take those staff needs from the leadership plan. You're going to plan out how much attrition you're going to have in your business based on the people potentially leaving your business. And that's going to help you understand what is your recruiting pipeline and when do you need to recruit people by. And then you're going to work that backwards to understand how many interviews have to happen what month. So you have a bench. No longer should you be hiring reactively. Oh no, I need to go find somebody. No. You make terrible hiring decisions when that happens. Build a bench. You want to always be recruiting. You want to always have people there in the bench ready to go in your funnel so you can pluck them because you know when they're generally going to happen. And that way you're always planning before it actually happens. This is how these propellers all come together and you start to build out this really cohesive plan. And it's a big undertaking, but once you do it once, you'll have a completely different view of how to run your business. And you'll see data and you'll see X's and O's of the strategy versus this chaotic, emotional world of running a business that I know so many business owners can get stuck into. When you want to go connect the productivity, you're just going to list out each person and role in the company. You're going to, and then that's when you're going to connect finally the KPIs. What are the KPIs that they need to work with? I'm going to attach compensation to those KPIs so they're incentivized to get me to my macro numbers, which probably incorporates a profit number for me. And then I'm going to categorize the priorities and tasks for each person and the amount of time it will take for them to complete that, so I know it's a realistic plan, and show them that so then they're confident when they go build their calendar. And then we're just going to shift and confirm time allocation throughout the year to ensure that plan is realistic and that they can hit it. Now, what I just covered in 3 slides, I could work with somebody, a business owner, one-on-one for that for a year, several meetings a month. Keep that in mind. That's a lot, but once you get the structure in place, this is a high-level overview to help you understand what it really looks like. And this will help connect you to the next level. So you've got your KPIs now down to each person. You've divided up based on the different areas of the business. You now get to pick which initiatives. KPIs, data just doesn't change. It's not like it's just, it's a new year, it's going to be better. I mean, maybe in your second year of business because you didn't know what you were doing year one, so you're naturally going to be better. But if you don't take behavioral change, if your people and your staff don't have a behavioral shift or change, you're not going to just all of a sudden see new data with your KPIs. So this is where you have to come up with initiatives. What are the training initiatives? What are the skill initiatives? What are the different projects we're going to implement? What new tech stack are we going to implement? What are we going to do to help shift these KPIs? And where are we going to put our time and our initiatives? This is where it gets really fun to work with your team and identify what are all the initiatives we want to focus on. Majority of business owners make a massive mistake. They pick too many initiatives. Pick the 3 or 4 that are going to take care of 70% of what really excites you. Focus in. Pick those initiatives and prioritize them of what's most important and what will you start with. That way you're leading the team on 1 or 2 initiatives at a time. Otherwise, it can be very overwhelming. You're going to pick those initiatives, you're going to brainstorm them, you're going to prioritize them. And that's going to leave us now to the implementation. This is now where you get to build out what's the strategy, what's the process, what is my system or procedure of how to implement that initiative. Now that I know what I need to go shift, how, right? We've done the why. Simon Sinek's got a great model. We've done the why, we identified the what, but how? Most people stop here. And this is actually what you spend majority of your time on your leadership meetings with your team doing, driving the implementation forward. And this is how you have to plan it out. And again, you're only planning Q1 because too much could change in Q1 before you then plan Q2, which is why that's a better strategy. So this is the framework. This is a methodology you could take in your business and start to work on. And I've got a bunch of other tools I'm going to point you to at the end of today to help you do this as well. I want to hit on collaborative planning. I know we have some people here that are probably a bit further ahead on the planning. I saw a few people. This is for you. This is more maybe that next level training. And for those that are getting ready to plan, something maybe for you to look forward to as you get a bigger team or as you start to plan, figuring out ways in the future of how to incorporate a team. So I want to launch my final poll here. We're almost through. I've just got a few more slides of content and then we're going to open up for Q&A. But I want to understand, how much collaborative planning do you actually do in your business right now? Is it just you for now that does all the planning? Is it you, but you're hoping to shift that this year, so it'll be kind of a new thing for you? Maybe you have team members that are providing plans already to you. It's something you've experienced. Or do you have teams actually providing leaders plans that then roll up to you? What level are you at in terms of how much collaborative planning you're doing with your team on an ongoing basis? And again, we'll just give everybody just a few seconds, just enough time for me to take a sip of water to catch my voice, and then we'll be right back with you. So select your option. How much collaborative planning? And Natalie, if we have enough results, we can go ahead and launch those if you feel like we have that, and we'll take a look at what the results are. Yeah, a little bit all over the map. Looks like 50% of the room here are looking to actually shift it this year. It's going to be something new. So perfect timing. I'm going to give you the most simplistic model you could ever see on this. Very excited to share that with you. Everything 23%. Yeah, great. And hey, we've got several people that are absolutely already doing this with their leaders. So maybe this will replace what you already do, or maybe your model is perfect. So Natalie, we can go ahead and close out that poll. Thanks so much for launching that. So when you're planning with a team, just think of it this way. You're either leading yourself, you're leading everyone, or you're leading leaders. That's generally how it works as a business owner. You're either just leading yourself, or you have to lead everyone in the company because you don't have managers in the organization yet, or you're starting to lead leaders and you're leading through those leaders. So quick question to the chat. Why would it be valuable to collaborate with your team? What happens when you collaborate with your team for purposes of planning? Jump in the chat and just share what comes to mind for you that comes out of it when you slow down and collaborate with a team when building your business plan versus doing it all yourself. Different perspective, dead on, David, thank you. Buy-in, yep, Amber, great. Ownership of the plan, yeah, you guys are definitely getting the buy-in and the ownership piece. It'll increase your success and confidence, absolutely, Aubrey. Yeah, Jenna, for sure. Especially now, right? I hear so many business owners have the wrong mindset around attrition. They're like, well, market might be down, or this pandemic, we're going to have all-time low attrition. It's like, no, what's going to happen is your most talented people are actually going to leave you because it's going to be easier for them to go find a job to stand out because it's not a bull market, and you're going to be stuck with all your lower performers. So don't buy into that. You need to get their buy-in. You need to get them excited. You need to get them to take ownership. That's such an important process. Also, the one that no one put here, it saves you time. It saves you time, allows you to hold additional ownership or additional accountability, allows them to not blame you for why it didn't work out or why they didn't get the results or why they didn't get their bonus. A lot of perks as a business owner as well that comes from this when you do this right. This is my simplistic model. I call it the W model. The idea is that you can actually drive leadership and drive their ability to work with their team in order to manage the plan for 2021. And here's how it works. Step one, this is you or this is your leader that's driving down. It can happen at multiple levels of the hierarchy. You're going to give context. Here's what we're aiming towards. Again, here's the vision. Here's the macro goals. This is what I needed to problem solve. I need you to go figure out what are your 5 KPIs per person in your department, do the metric work and bring it back to show me your plan. I need to understand you're then going to come back and present your plan to me. I'll ask some questions, play devil's advocate a little bit. We'll get to a finish line where we're both aligned. But you don't want to just go send them on a wild chase. Good luck. No, you got to give them some context of what they're solving towards. Otherwise, it can just be a nightmare. They present the plan. You guys get aligned. That's the middle of the W. What you're now doing is you're pulling in everybody's plans and you're going to sync them all up together and make them talk. And that way you can see how do all departments flow together. Do we have enough financials for everything? Is everything in place? Can I approve these budgets? Can I improve the KPIs? Are we in a good position? We are. Okay. I'm now going to do what I call integration. I'm going to start having conversations with the executives, and I'm going to ensure that I'm integrating the entire plan down, meaning I may have to cut some of their budgets. I may have to ask them to do more in certain areas. I may need to have them shift and say, no, this KPI is going to be actually managed by this other department. You're going to manage this KPI. Here's why. You've got to get alignment on that. And in order to get their buy-in, what you're going to do, this is the final 4th step, you're then going to ask them to come up with the initiatives that they want to pursue next year that's going to help them achieve those KPIs. And you want to see them do a formal write-up of what those initiatives are. And you encourage them to work with their other team members if they have them, or to write it by themselves, set the deadline, have them come back and present that to you. That's going to be the path. They get to choose the path. You chose the goal, they choose the path. Now they're bought in. They are going to want to go show you that their path was the right choice. You're going to ask some questions. You're going to make sure that it's a dialed in plan that you buy into as well. And then there's pure alignment. There's true alignment. We have reached our destination. You now have a plan from your departments and they all flow together. This is a very simplistic collaborative strategy that you can take. And when you incorporate that to this, you have to remember timelines. This is why times are so important to go through this process, because you're going to need to give people time, 15, 30 days at a time to go do that work and bring it back. So this year, you might be a little tighter. to get it done by the end of the year if you haven't started yet. But the way to get started is get this vision and long-term goal set and set up your annual macro goals. Get that established so then you can take that and start getting your team to do some of their planning in their own roles and identify their KPIs. So if you want to kickstart the collaboration, formally review the planning process with them. Take these slides, take the infographics. We're going to be sending out some resources after. Take it and show it to them. Teach it to them. Be transparent. It doesn't have to be a shock. I show this to all of the leaders that I work with, and I say, this is what we're doing. This is the collaborative W. This is what I'm going to do. Does this make sense? They're usually very open. Lock in the dates for each step of the planning process. Just put a deadline so everybody stays consistent. It's a simple project. Discuss the format and the deliverable of what you want them to bring, if it's the integration or if it's them building their KPIs, and then schedule a time with each to collaborate. And if you can get that in the calendar, planning is actually pretty easy. You just follow the calendar and let it do the work for you. Context is delivered, plans reviewed, and plan is integrated. Those are really the things that and plan buy-in, of course. Those are the 4 that have to be in your calendar there. That's the content today. Now stick around because I've got 1 or 2 resources as well as Q&A here, but we covered mindset, we covered planning methodology, the actual model of how to break down the business, and then we talked about how to put that into a collaborative sense with your team. So next steps, again, stick around, Q&A is coming up in 2 slides. I want everybody just to take a moment. This is so important that you have captured, you just spent an hour with me, and all of you stayed here, thank you. I can see the participation count, it didn't dwindle, so thank you. Slow down, look at your notes, pick the 2 things, circle them. What's the 1 or 2 things you're gonna do differently? You're going to change, and you know where this is headed. If you don't mind, throw them in chat. Helps me understand what content is really resonating, what's really supporting and helping the businesses move along and their planning initiatives. So again, just take a moment here and write down what's those 1 or 2 things that you just do not want to forget from today. You heard it and went, I got to keep that in my world on a daily basis as I go after planning. And then if you're open to it, jump in the chat and share with me what some of the feedback is and go, this was really helpful, or I really got to think about this in terms of how to manage it. And AJ, thanks for being the first one to strike, hire staff to grow business. Good news is you're on a CareerPlug webinar. So if you're working with CareerPlug, you've definitely got a good tech system to help support you with that. We use CareerPlug ourselves. We're a huge fan of them. Debbie, integration with team members in the planning process. Awesome, Debbie. You can take that into your team. Thanks for sharing. Jenna will make an actual plan instead of an implied plan. That you will enjoy being able to literally walk an employee through the plan, Jenna. You will be shocked what that does to their buy-in and their buy-in to your leadership too. So I'm excited to see you do that. Carol, thank you for bringing back. You need to make sure you go get access to capital because you're going to need that cash threshold. Thank you for that. David, yes, I'm a big golfer. When you talk about letting go, one of the biggest tips I ever got was stop holding the darn golf club so tight. For those that don't play golf, if you hold the golf club really tight, you'll lose so much distance. You just don't have a free-flowing swing. You got to let go of that golf club is what you're saying. That's awesome. Carol, write down the actual plan. Yep, absolutely. And then Eric asked the team to plan with goals, roles, and KPI for the next year and review with you. Awesome. I'm sure there was a lot of takeaways and a lot of things that got presented today that you can grab. Thanks for being with us to slow down. For those, just so you know, we actually have a page that we've created that has a bunch more tools and resources and some awesome training. And so Cassie's here. She's somebody from my team. She's actually going to throw this link in the chat here in a little bit and allow you to actually jump onto this page. And what it does is when you browse our courses, I've worked out a partnership with CareerPlug to give away about 2 hours of free training content on a lot of different areas of the business that'll help you go. No strings attached, just click it. It's our give to you. Again, this is a relationship we have with CareerPlug. It will ask you to give us a little bit of information. We do gate this content. It's very, very high end. We do charge for this content normally, but this is free. We'll grab your information. We may shoot you a quick email to say, hey, do you want to learn more about Cultivate and see what we're up to? It's up to you. Again, no obligation, but take advantage of the training. We've worked really hard to build out some really tangible training. We're considered one of the best in the country at what we do. So would love to take us up on that. And last but not least, before I go to our questions here, threw me to a different page there. It looks like it's not going to let me go for some reason. My slide's having an issue here. Let's see if I can do it the old-fashioned way. There we go. If you want to take 2 free hours with an advisor to get help on putting this plan on a one-on-one basis, Cassie's going to launch one more link for you, and that's where you can actually schedule initial call with one of our relationship managers. We'll find an advisor on our team that matches your industry and background, and then we'll give you 2 free hours so you can actually go through and get started on the planning process. It's our treat. We know that you'll see the plan, and if we can add some value and you want to work with us down the road, great. But it's not expected, just something the way we can give back and help support all the growing businesses within the economy. So thanks for hearing us out on that. All right, I'm finally done. We've got Q&A, and I'm happy to stay a few minutes over if we need to based on the questions that come in. Jump in the chat. Is there a specific question that you wanted to get asked that maybe you didn't get answered that you're curious about as it pertains to planning in 2021? So where can I go a bit deeper? No questions are off limits. Happy to answer anything that people have here, and we'll give everybody just a second as they're probably typing. But what are you curious about? And feel free to share specifics for your situation, no problem. We'll make sure we get them answered for you. John, boy, if I had that figured out, oh, that's a big one. Here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I've learned. I think this is something you always can get better at first, but this is what I've learned. And he asked, how do you inspire others who don't believe in planning? I know we've got a few people just on the phone today. So how do you inspire others who don't believe in planning? I guess one way to do it is not make them do it. Make somebody do the plan. Don't let them do the plan, and see who outperforms. And that's one way that you could actually use their approach to figure it out. But one more tangible, if you need them to do the planning, is this. It just goes, we believe in data. We believe in building a plan. If you don't want to build out this plan, I don't know if this is the right team. And I say that from a place of, could you have predicted what was going to happen in 2020? That question is hard for somebody to look you in the eye and say yes, right? And so you go, if you had had a plan, we could have easily just jumped in, maneuvered a few small things, and figured out what it was. But we couldn't because there was nothing to go off of. Most people who are afraid, John, of going after the plan are people who actually have fear of what I call attainment, the ability to set a goal and then be held accountable to either hitting or missing a goal. That's been my experience of those people I meet with. They often have very high egos. They're often very low in confidence, which is what it's a weird kind of combination. If you think about a high ego, but then low in confidence, meaning their ego is a persona, is purely just a facade that's been created because of their confidence. So what I find, and they're used to just winging it. Problem with winging it is I've never met somebody who just wings it and grows and scales and gets more opportunity in the company. So if they're happy being stuck where they're at, go this route. But if they want to move up or they want to take the business to the next level, they're going to need a plan. Why would they fight what every other company that grows does? So that's what I could share with you, John. That's a big conversation to unpack. Thanks for the question, John. If there's other questions, maybe you're not asking, or maybe you're mindful of time and know we're gonna have to jump here in a minute, no problem. Again, use these free resources we launched here in the chat. Jump on and grab a quick call with Stephanie. She's one of our relationship managers. She'll tell you a little bit more about us and get you set up for your 2 free hours that CareerPlug kind of worked out with us to be able to offer to all of you. And we just want to appreciate you for slowing down and taking the time today with us to learn more about 2020 planning. Best of luck as you build your 2021 plan. And entrepreneurs, we run this economy. So thanks for being you, and let's keep inspiring others to take on the same fate and take the challenge to make the jump. Thanks for the time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much, Casey. Thank you, everyone. We'll send out this information shortly. Have a good afternoon.